Hi everyone, in this video we are going to talk about the Akashic Records and more importantly, who is helping you in the Akashic Records? Who are these Akashic Records Guides? And if you're new to this channel, welcome. I'm Anika Ray. I am a spiritual intuitive teacher coach who specializes in the Akashic Records and soul level guidance. I have been reading the Akashic Records since 2012 and also teaching since 2014 and very deeply immersed. This Akashic Records, if you're not familiar, are this infinite, gigantic, spiritual and energetic library of the soul. They contain the entire journey of every soul and everything that's ever been said and created. And this means past, present, and future. Although the records are very much associated in our modern days with past lives, they are more than that. And we really tap into the records for spiritual guidance, that is that deep soul level guidance that we don't get intuitively or in channel state or any other way. And also every time we experience healing, but the records have many other uses. And if you're interested and like and love to hear more, please like and subscribe to my channel because that's really mostly what I talk about. Now onto this topic, how to reach these guides, and also what are they? Who is in the Akashic Records? Who is helping you do the readings? So when I first got into the Akashic Records, I was really hoping that there are going to be some sort of guides that are going to be there with me, because I honestly felt deep sense of resistance and unworthiness that I couldn't do this work because I needed to have some special gifts. And you don't really have to, because the records are available to all of us. It is our divine birthright. And so then I learned that in the records, we do have these light beings that are helping us do the readings, but also some that are on the outside of the records. So that's where we're going to start first. On the outside of the records are the group of light beings that have never been in body. They are called the Lords of the Akashic Records. And I use the word the Lords because that's what I have learned in my own training. Now I know on the internet you may hear that they are the keepers of the records, the librarians. The name is less important. What is more important is for you to know their roles. They stand on the outside of the records, and role number one is protect the integrity of the records. So nothing really gets inside. So if somebody tells you, oh, they're entities, I'm being compromised, anything like that, no. The Lords of the Records maintain that integrity of the records and refuse anything that's not in alignment. Number two role of the Lords of the Akashic Records is that they really decide who gets into the records. That doesn't mean that everybody doesn't have access to the records. We all do. But the Lords of the Records really know when you are ready to access your records, and they energetically tap you right on the shoulder, and then you really feel that pull and interest towards the records. And then number three is they decide what gets disclosed in the Akashic Records, but they don't do the readings with you. In other words, they don't help you decipher the information in the records. It's important to also mention they work in groups and they don't have personal identities. Excuse my voice. So that's the Lords of the Akashic Records. Now, who is inside of the records? So when you actually access the records, you get inside, and then what I recommend is, a lot of times when I teach this, I recommend to students to locate these three groups. And they are not something you can see, right? You don't see these three groups. They generally are there just for us to sense their presence, so that you know they're there for us and they help us discern and decipher the information that's being given to us, but they don't really have personal identities. They don't have names, individual names. So who are these three groups? The number one group is the masters. Now, this is the name, again, that I know through my training. If you're not comfortable with this name, the name to me is less relevant. More important is that, again, they work in groups. They're a group of light beings that don't have personal identities, and their role is to be with you since your soul's inception and forever. This is the masters. I don't really like to speculate whether they are a group of light beings that have never had lives. So if you think they're star seeds or star beings, you can adopt that if that feels right to you. But honestly, to me, that's less important. It's more important that you know they're there for you and have been there for you since your soul's inception. And again, they don't have personal identities or names. Group number two that's in the records helping you do the readings are the teachers. Now, these teachers have had at least one lifetime. They're a group of light beings. Again, they don't have personal identities. The reason why is they don't want to distract us from really our work in the records, and the role that they play is they really help us learn specific lessons. So they are with us until we learn the lesson. For example, if the lesson is self-love, they stay with us until we learn the lesson. Even if it takes so many lifetimes, they're still going to be there for you. Now, a lot of people think they're ascended masters. They say they see Jesus, Mother Mary, Buddha. That may be so, but if you are seeing these individual energies in the records, pull back and use grounding to really reground in the records, because technically, again, we don't see their personal identities. Sure, is Jesus most of our teacher for the self-love? It could be, but again, keep in mind, this group of beings work in groups. And the third group are the loved ones. Now, these are people that have passed on and we've known them in this lifetime, but it's important that we know that they really share some similar goals, soul level goals that we have. They share consciousness with us. And more importantly, they're interested in our spiritual growth. So that's the reason why they're there. You may sense who these loved ones are. It could be your, for example, in my case, my father, I sense has been one of my loved ones. You could sense that there are, your neighbor, your teacher, right? It doesn't have to be your family necessarily. Could be just souls that have passed on. You've known them in this lifetime, but they care about your spiritual growth. Again, they generally are there in groups. If they have messages for you, it will be like that collective message that really comes through the records. And as it really pertains to guidance that you're getting, opposed to in mediumship, we have these personal messages of love. That's not how it shows up in the records. As a matter of fact, these masters, teachers, and loved ones, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, they are working together. You generally sense their presence. If you want to be even more specific, and if this helps you, they generally stand on either side of your shoulder energetically, or behind you, or sometimes in front of you. Their position really changes, in my experience, every time we access the records. And it's not necessary to locate them, but I feel, like I mentioned, it's helpful when you access the records to locate these masters, teachers, and loved ones. The lords of the records we don't interact with. We just know they're there on the outside of the records. And I hope that this insight into who is in the Akashic Records, who are these Akashic Records Guides, helps you. If you really like this content, please again, like, subscribe, share this video if you're interested. And I hope that you are learning more about the Akashic Records. Please join me. I teach the classes about the records online, live. I also have some on-demand classes. I leave the links in the description. And if you're interested in the Akashic Records personal guidance, I also offer Akashic Records readings, and those links are also going to be in the description. I'm sending you lots of love and light, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye now.